Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Matt Westmoreland. I'm chair of the Community Development and Human Services Committee. We'd like to call this meeting to order. I am joined by council members Bond, Dozier, Winston, and Collins. I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda. Second by Dozier.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The agenda is adopted.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes. Second by Collins.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The minutes are approved.
Next up on our agenda is public comment. We have one speaker signed up. Ms. Jordan, the podium is yours.
Give me honor to the Spirit of God to everyone that's here. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates. Proverbs 31:31. James Griff, you told God you did not want me as your wife. You did not treat your first wife right. The word of God created the income. James did not give me the fruit of my hands, nor let my works be praised in the gates. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. Matthew 24th chapter 35th verse. The Father only knows the time of Christ's return, since it has been set by his authority. When you fight against God's word, you ask for trouble. And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. St. John 8:32. Jesus identifies the true disciples as those who believe in him, continue in his word, will be free from sin by the truth. A lie will not set you free, and it will bound you. Jesus created the income through me, not James Griff. Do you want the truth or a lie? He that worketh deceit shall not dwell within my house. He that telleth lies shall not tarry in my sight. Psalms 10 chapter, 101 chapter, 7th verse. The ideal king sings to the Lord, keeps his personal life pure, and administers social justice. When you honor lies, you ask for destruction. If I marry James Griff, I will lose the gift. It's a spiritual pattern that Christ give us his word, and he can speak to us in songs, many ways, in other people that will acknowledge the word of God. We do need God's help. God don't need our help. He made us. We didn't make ourselves. He made us to serve him, a deliverance plan for him, for you. And I thank God for his plan.
Thank you. Thus endeth the lesson. And public comment. Next up on our agenda is the consent agenda. If you will sound items 1 through 7, please.
26-0-1125, an ordinance by committee.
My bad. I'm
Presentations.
out of practice. Next up, we're going to go to presentations, and we're going to start off with Dr. Eloisa Clementage.
Good afternoon. Dr. Eloisa Clementage, proud president and CEO of Invest Atlanta, and I'm going to, thank you. So I'm here to present our quarterly report to CDHS. We're going to focus on the 2025 end-of-year results. We're going to begin with Invest Atlanta-wide KPIs. We had more than $1.7 billion in total capital investment across all of our programs in 2025. These projects will generate more than $5.4 billion in total economic impact. That's direct, indirect, and induced. 46.3% of the investment went to supporting disinvested neighborhoods. That's pretty much south of I-20 with downtown. What I watch for very closely is not only the projects that we provide, but the service that we deliver. Hence, across all our programs, we received a client satisfaction rating of 4.6 out of 5. The graph on the left-hand side shows our investment progress against the goal. We were able to surpass the 2025 investment goal by 85%. And the map on the right shows all of our closed projects from 2025. As a reminder, you can always access our KPI dashboard and interactive map by visiting the Invest Atlanta website. I'm happy to report that thanks to you and the mayor's commitment, the $1.7 billion in investment in 2025 was largely driven by Invest Atlanta's affordable housing development investments, which represent a 9.6% increase over 2024 and 143.8% increase over the amount of affordable housing units we were able to produce in 2022. Roughly 62% of all the projects, these are the projects, not the amount of dollars, were located in disinvested neighborhoods, which are the red and orange neighborhoods on the map are considered disinvested. In these areas, we were able to support the community with 199 anti-displacement tax relief recipients, 141 new down payment assistance home buyers, 49 home rehabilitation projects, 37 small business were funded, and 162 jobs and retained. Invest Atlanta, as I've mentioned before, cares deeply about the people, and we want to make sure that our programs are having a positive experience for all community members. We do this in 3 ways. The first, we send out anonymous surveys for all of our programs to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to give us feedback on their experience. This is a very concise survey. We ask just a few standardized industry questions. The first is the Net Promoter Score. This score highlights a proportion of people who are very likely to recommend your company or your service. Net Promoter Scores, or NPS, range from 0 to 100. 20 is considered good, 50 is excellent, and 80 is considered world-class. Invest Atlanta's Net Promoter Score for 2025 was 82.1. Second, our customer satisfaction score. We asked customers how satisfied they were with the experience they had when working with Invest Atlanta. We rate 1 to 5, 1 being poor and 5 is excellent. What we did was we also looked at other public agencies across the nation to see what their average scores were. Their scores were 3.3 to 3.7. Invest Atlanta's average score for 2025 was 4.6, which is well above the standard of other like organizations. While we want to hear from everyone, we can't control who responds to these surveys, but I would like to highlight that in 2025, about 54% of the responses came from small businesses and roughly 46% came from homeowners. In the blue box on the right, we have one piece of feedback shared from a DPA, or down payment assistance homebuyer, and in the green box below that is a comment that we received from our small businesses. Additionally, Invest Atlanta also asks our own employees how we're doing, and we issue the standard Gallup Q12 survey. In 2025, we increased by 6 percentage points with a total employment engagement of 44%. Let's move to small business. Invest Atlanta provided more than $10 million in grants and loans to small businesses in 2025. This investment comprised of 98 grants and loans closed in 2025. Invest Atlanta team members also provided one-on-one consultations to 954 small businesses. 37.8% of our small businesses were located in disinvested neighborhoods, that red and orange map that we showed earlier. The graph in the middle shows that we also surpassed our goal for total small businesses supported by 8.7%. And on the right, the chart shows that we were not able to hit our technical assistance hours, but that really was only driven by the loss in funding, or we depleted the funding. So I am now looking for additional funding to support our technical assistance program. In small business, the total small business development team supported 1,087 small businesses. 954 one-on-one consultations, 98 closed grants, 20 fresh food access businesses enrolled, and 15 new businesses started the Women's Entrepreneur Initiative cohort. I think it's important to look at the characteristics of the small businesses we were able to support. 37.8% of the small businesses funded were in our disinvested neighborhoods. Top industries include full service, restaurants, retail, personal care. 59% were Black-owned businesses. The median number of employees was 9. If we look at the small business improvement grants, we reopened these using our TAD dollars to focus on small business improvement grants. This is a program to help small businesses in TADs fund facade improvements and other facility improvements. 21 small businesses received the improvement grants that were approved by the board in 2025. The total grant amounts were $1,050,000. Top industries were restaurants, mechanic shops, newspaper publishers. 7 grants closed totaling $350,000. These small businesses were located in 6 out of the 8 TADs. We also wanted to present the impact of our business development projects in 2025. Invest Atlanta supported more than $530 million in total project costs and business development projects. These deals created and or retained 3,967 jobs. This includes 1,730 new jobs, new good jobs, which we define from $40,000 to $80,000. 50 closed small business deals, that's 66% above our goal. The chart on the left shows that we surpassed the goal of jobs impacted by 13%. The chart in the middle shows that we surpassed the good job goal by 33%. And our business development team also likes to monitor which industries make up the majority of our projects. And in 2025, the major categories were technology innovation, food access, and professional services. Moving on, 50 business development projects in 2025, 27 business retention and expansion. Major companies coming to expanding headquarters in Atlanta include Shriners Hospital for Children. This is a new research center. Others include EY's expansion. Rivian has an HQ based Duracell and Salesforce. Many of these companies are taking advantage of Atlanta's innovation ecosystem. Hence, the main industries for 2025 were technology, innovation, food service, professional services. State Opportunity Zone programs. This is us working specifically with our small businesses to notify them that they are eligible for this tax benefit directly coming from the state. We work with 27 businesses to be able to receive these tax credits. Why is this important? Because it helps us either retain or gain 495 jobs in the city. As a result, the tax savings for these small businesses was $1.9 million. This brings us into some of our neighborhood investment. So now we're in the neighborhood investment focused outcomes for 2025. $23.5 million in new market tax credits financing was provided to mission-driven organizations. $31.3 million in TAD funding closed in 2025. More than $398 million in private total capital was leveraged via the same TAD projects. This surpassed our goal of 2025 by 165%. $25.4 million invested through our C-PACE program for clean energy improvements in the city. The chart on the left shows the proportion of funding in these 3 programs that was Invest Atlanta investment versus private capital. Across all neighborhood investment focused programs, roughly 15% of total capital was Invest Atlanta's direct funding. This means that 85% of the capital was leveraged private capital. The chart in the center shows another important pillar of our neighborhood investment and community engagement efforts. Community events are essential for Invest Atlanta to go out into the community and ensure that everyone has access to information about our programs. These events allow us to help our community members learn more about what Invest Atlanta does. In 2025, we were able to surpass our event attendance by more than 169% with more than 24,000 attendees across all Invest Atlanta-led events. The final chart shows how many Atlanta residents were served through AME projects. Again, we are focused on people. In 2025, 18,255 Atlanta residents were served by these mission-driven organizations. For our Proctor Creek efforts, we were able to support 14 small business loans, specifically in this geographic area, and 109 homeowners. Together, these investments represent $154 million in total capital investment, 287 affordable housing units, and 136 jobs were created. In 2025, Invest Atlanta has also been very active within our TADs. In fact, the next few slides will give you an overview of the TAD activity in 2025. We have approved 55 projects in TADs, in the 7 TADs, representing a wide diversity of projects. Just over $87 million has been awarded, which has leveraged an additional $767 million investment in the city. Invest Atlanta is deeply committed to being good stewards of public funds. As you can see, for every $1 of TAD, we've helped to unlock $9 additional of private investment. Since the inception of the TAD program, our leveraged dollar has produced 12 private dollars. This map shows the general location of these projects. Obviously, TADS is a geographic-based tool, and this map provides a clear snapshot of where these investments have been. Here's a bit more programmatic detail about the 55 projects approved last year. My hope is that this slide and the next few is really to help drive home just how important the TAD is as a tool, because its unique ability to help advance residential projects, commercial projects, infrastructure projects, and green space projects, from very small to larger. These projects represent the creation and preservation of 925 residential units. That's both multifamily and single family, 1,313 of which will be affordable at area median incomes ranging from 30 to 80% AMI for up to about 20 years. TAD funding will also be used to reactivate, improve long vacant commercial buildings to provide needed neighborhood-oriented services, community space, and retail in disinvested neighborhoods. Let me give you a sense of some of the projects that we invest in. The top slide shows the new construction of 112 units of deeply affordable housing in Mechanicsville neighborhood. This is part of the city's Rapid Housing Initiative. The land is owned by the city of Atlanta and will be leased to Partners for Home on a long-term basis. The project will utilize modular off-site construction, which will allow for the project completion by the first quarter of this year. The full development plan for Cooper Street project includes additional 74 sale townhomes to be delivered subsequent development phases. A $3 million stadium TAD grant was awarded to this $17 million development. The images on the top are a redesign and reconstruction of the South Broad Street in downtown. These 3 city blocks from 5 Points MARTA Station to Garnett MARTA Station will rebuild as active, safe, inviting public realm. The project will include improved connections between the MARTA stations, incorporating safety enhancements throughout the streetscape. This is a signature piece of public infrastructure as part of the catalytic South Downtown Atlanta development. This will support programming around large stadium events as well as community festivals, creating a vibrant activity center for South Downtown neighborhoods. This was a $3 million East Side TAD grant that was awarded to South Downtown Atlanta. Project is currently under construction and expected to deliver prior to World Cup. The bottom image shows the new construction of a mixed-use development at 1283 West in the Beltline TAD at 1283 Marietta Boulevard. This is a large $80 million project that will create 238 multifamily units, 48 of which will be created at 50% AMI or below, 24 will be at 80% AMI or below, and the project will also include 7,500 square feet of ground retail. A $3 million Beltline TAD grant was awarded to this project, which is expected to complete in 30 months. My last TAD slide at the top shows a complete renovation of a long vacated small commercial building in South Downtown into a new El Tesoro restaurant located just down the street from 171 Mitchell. A $50,000 Eastside TAD grant was awarded to this project. This is a very exciting investment. This is a restaurant's local success story. Its original location is in Edgewood, and a second one is on Lee and White. At the bottom image, you'll see a 20-unit infill development of 2 vacant residential lots on James P. Brawley in the English Avenue neighborhood. The developer has been a resident of English Avenue community for more than a decade and begun constructing and redeveloping homes in the neighborhood in 2007. We are also very happy to support small local developers, helping to increase the access to quality, affordable housing. A $1 million Westside TAD grant was awarded to this $4.5 million investment into the neighborhood. Of the 20 units, 16 will be affordable from 60 to 80% AMI for 30 years. Another major way Invest Atlanta supports the community is through prioritizing affordable housing in 2025, Invest Atlanta supported more than $961 million in total capital investment for housing developments. These communities will provide 2,384 new and renovated affordable housing units in the city. In addition, 1,897 of the units will be affordable at or below 60% AMI. That is someone who's earning about $48,000 a year. Invest Atlanta also supported 576 Atlanta homeowners across all homeownership programs. The chart on the left shows that we were able to surpass the affordable housing goal. In the middle, the chart confirms that we surpassed the goal for homeowners supported by 44%. And our housing team also cares deeply about ensuring that developments we support include as many affordable housing units as possible. The chart on the right tracks the percentage of affordable units in our developments year over year. In 2025, more than 84% of housing units in the developments were guaranteed to be affordable. Now, to affordable housing, Invest Atlanta, and I'm almost done, thank you. Invest Atlanta financed 2,832 total housing units. 2,384, or 84% were actually affordable in 2025. 27 closed affordable housing deals in 2025, which represents 17% more than 2024. 20 traditional multifamily rental communities, 5 single-family for sale developments, and 2 mixed-use multifamily and retail developments. These developments represent more than $961 million in total project costs, more than $310 million in Invest Atlanta direct investment. They will generate more than $1.1 billion in total economic impact. That's direct, indirect, and induced. Many of these projects closed in December of 2025, including New Year's Eve. Our team is extremely dedicated closing every deal as soon as possible. Many developers needed to close in 2025 instead of 2026 due to the change in the DC rule from 50% to 25% test. Our homeownership program supported a total of 576 new recipients in 2025. This is more than 40% increase from 2024. Increase in recipients were driven largely by the anti-displacement tax relief program. The map shows all the homeowners Invest Atlanta supported in 2025. Anti-displacement tax relief, we had 425 total recipients, of which 329 were new recipients enrolled and 96 were recertified. Question you may ask is, who are these recipients? The average age of our recipients was the young age of 73. 85% were Black homeowners and 78% were women homeowners. For Invest Atlanta's down payment assistance program, 179 homeowners received DPA in 2025. The average age was 37. 86% were Black homeowners and 69% were female. In our owner-occupied rehab program, the average age is a young 69 years old. 95% were Black homeowners and 92% were female. I will close with the Housing Opportunity Bond. For 2021 issuance of Housing Opportunity Bonds, all funds have been committed. They represent 519 total units, of which 100% are affordable. For our 2023 Housing Opportunity Bond issuance, and again, thanks to the council for your support, 100% of the funds have been committed. Of the 1,404 total units, 1,367, or 97%, were affordable units. Combining all three HOB issuances, that would be the 2017, 2021, and 2023 HOB, has awarded 46 loans for a total of 88 million low-interest loans. 8 million has been paid back, and those funds have been reinvested. And they've been reinvested in two programs, in the down payment assistance loans and owner-occupied rehab loans. I should mention that these loans go to city residents, and when they meet their residency requirements, the loans burn off into grants. It is a way to build wealth, preserve our legacy residents, and strengthen our communities. Lastly, I'd like to report that on the SSD Beltline Special Service District, $88.1 million of bond proceeds have been spent on construction costs to date, with $7.6 million in interest earnings over the life of the fund, expected to be spent on construction costs in the future. Unaudited collections through 6/30/2025 have been exceeded growth projections, and the discretionary fund balance is 0. And in your appendix, I just make reference that we have the unaudited TAD financials for your review. And on behalf of the entire Invest Atlanta team, thank you for your confidence and the ability to serve the City of Atlanta residents.
Thank you very much. First person up, Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good to see you, Dr. Clementes, as always. Just a few quick questions. One, I had the pleasure of attending a ribbon cutting in downtown Atlanta for Junction Subs and Sandwiches. They received funding through Invest Atlanta as part of the Small Business Improvement Grant Program. And what was really exciting about that was they are a legacy business as of this year. So they hit 30 years this year. And so it's exciting to see small businesses being able to participate in programs, even if they're legacy, but not within the definition of legacy at the time in which the grant was administered. I am curious, because I recognize funding is limited through the grant program that we provided, if there is an opportunity to adjust criteria for qualifying legacy businesses for other programs that Invest Atlanta is distributing funding through as part of the grant making program. So this was a good situation because this got the funding independently, but I wonder if other legacy businesses down the line would potentially be able to benefit by being a legacy business, but get funding for other programs or get additional points in your criteria for funding through other programs. As an additional, support mechanism to support legacy business. We're going to try to get you more money for the legacy business program, but I wonder if we can think about other ways in which we can support those businesses. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So just if you get extra points, if you're a legacy business,
right.
I will touch base with. I've written myself a note so that I could ask the legal team their thoughts on that.
Okay. But it was great that, you know, I joked with the owner that she is the most important small business in downtown Atlanta right now, because she is feeding all the construction workers that are building along at Centennial Yard, South Downtown. You know, so it's great. With regards to Legacy Business Program, I am going to try to figure out how I can get that program better funded so we can have more sustainable growth year over year. But I know Invest Atlanta has historically sought out funding with partners with Wells Fargo, JP Morgan Chase. What does that look like for y'all? Do y'all have any sort of line of sight on any large-scale third-party philanthropic donations to Invest Atlanta to administer to support small businesses?
Yeah.
And how can we support that work?
We have several requests out to support small businesses, some specific legacy. Just depends on who we're asking and what they're looking to try to fund, but I haven't received any confirmations yet.
Okay,
So,
no worries.
trying to push as much as we can and
Yeah.
encourage, I should say.
Yeah, we're gonna, you know, as we get ready to submit our budget priorities for FY27, I want to make sure that the city's doing its part, but there's philanthropic dollars out there to support the businesses that have made Atlanta Atlanta. I want to make sure we can bring those to the table as well. The last piece is more so a comment. 2 or 3 years ago, I worked with you and your team on trying to figure out the disposition of Route David Abernathy Plaza, Mechanicsville. On the property rolls, I believe it shows it's Atlanta Development Authority doing business as Invest Atlanta. Is managed and maintained by City of Atlanta Department of Parks and Recreation. There are still some questions and concerns about the ownership and the history behind how that parcel was subdivided. There is an ongoing dispute with a adjacent property owner that has built or absorbed some of what we believe to be Invest Atlanta's property or the city's property as part of their development, and they have fenced it off. And so I just want to follow up with you and your team and figure out if we can solve that issue for once and for all, since there seems to be some encroachment there. So.
Okay, got it down.
And that's all I have. I know I have colleagues that have a lot of questions coming up, so I will yield, and then we'll revisit if anything else comes up. But thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you, Councilmember.
Thank you. Councilmember Lewis.
And thank you. And super happy we spoke on the phone yesterday, because we were able to discuss some of my wants and needs in the community, and to see these maps. I'm super happy about these heat maps and data points because they tell a story. Each map that you gave us tell a story, and it's the same story, right? And same exact story. So I'm thinking about opportunity-based. A lot of the business development results were opportunity-based. But if you look at the need, look at the home ownership programs, that's the only map that's different from all of the opportunity and all of the stuff where you have to know somebody, where you have to apply for different things from. The need-based, which was the home ownership program, everywhere that is red in other maps is where the dots are. And the maps I'm looking at are, the one map that's glaring different is the home ownership programs page. It talks about anti-displacement, down payment assistance, and owner-occupied rehab. This map, it shows below I-20, overwhelmingly more support has happened because it was need-based and you signed up for these programs. When I look at anything that says business, small business results, small business improvement grant, even affordable housing results, when you look at the map key, they don't show the same type of results below I-20. In fact, if you look at the green areas, you see way more dots. And so I'm just trying to think about equity, and I'm thinking about how can we make it to where the red areas get the same type of opportunity investment as the green ones. And I even look at one of the dots on the red area, and I'm just thinking about when Councilmember Overstreet fought to make sure that Cascade Road would get the funding because they closed down the businesses, and I even think that's around that. The one dot that I see that's down in that area. And so I'm hopeful, I'm asking you, what can I do or what can we do other than the 2 meetings? I know we have 2 meetings set up, one with some religious folks who are trying to do some development, and one with all the small businesses in District 12 trying to do development. What can we do to be sure that we are pointed and intentional about the red areas looking like the green areas?
I'll tell you that 62% of all the projects that Invest Atlanta touch were in the red and yellow, orange areas. 62% of all the projects together. So what the reason I say that is I could not agree with you more. That is where we're really focused. We are trying to provide services for the entire city, but we definitely focus our attention and we monitor how well we're doing by looking at where we're investing. That's why for us, I report out how much of everything we've done in disinvested neighborhoods. So I couldn't agree with you more, Councilmember. We're doing the best we can, and the more we can do, the better, of course.
I'm happy that you said that. I'm okay with numbers. I'm okay with numbers. And I'm also looking at the map quest, like for business development results, for example, right? And so, because you're right, you said 62% of them have happened in the red areas. But I'm looking at all your maps. And to me, unless you could tell me different, the home ownership program would be the program that most of those would have happened to, or are you just talking about business-wise? We say 62%.
All of the projects together.
Perfect.
I can break it down if you
Perfect.
want
So
per area, but you're right.
Yeah.
Because it's a higher number.
We're on the same page then right now. Thank you for telling me that, because I
Okay.
feel really good about my analysis now. And so whenever I look at the business attraction or business retention and expansion, there's no business attraction below I-20. Zero, right? And so I'm talking about the different types of things that are upon. But when you talk about home ownership program, I'm so happy. I know I work a lot with Atlanta Housing. I see the good folks here today, Terry Lee and Morgan Johnson, and all those good folks over there. And they've been able to also work with us on the home ownership programs and make sure folks actually get help with that stuff. And I'm willing to bet a lot of money that a lot of the 62% that was spent in the red areas was from the home ownership programs. And because the other maps, every single map with business on it, I see one. Well, this one, I only see one business attraction below I-20 in the entire city. And if I go up small business improvement grants, I see 1, 2, 3. I see 3, entire city, right? Then I go to the affordable housing. There may be more, but no, this is different. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 on the south side. I'm talking about the entire city. Everything else is more of those is in a smaller green area by itself. And then whenever I go to small business results, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 in the red area, 1 in the entire south side of the red area. That's Councilmember Winston, Councilmember Dozier, and Councilmember my at-large members area, Councilmember Collins. And so I just want to know about the intention of, not the intention, I just want to say moving forward. Is there anything we could do to make sure that when we talk about opportunity, and I think I've been writing notes since you started. I even went to the back because I was listening to it. I went to the back to listen to it on TV. Opportunity and more opportunity things being over there in equity. When we talk about opportunity and equity, can we be more intentional with making sure that some of the business development, business attraction funding is spent in the red areas? Because right now there's none. According to this, there's 0.
So just business attraction.
Below I-20.
I understand.
Yep.
For business attraction, the way we qualify that, or we put that in that bucket, or quality, because I hear you completely, is when we work with the business to attract them to the city of Atlanta. And so we are very intentional and try to market different sites to them, but ultimately it's the business that will choose where they want to go in the city. But I hear you, and we definitely do market as many sites as possible.
I feel so good about that because of the highways, right? And so to think about 285 on Jonesboro Road, and count cars, I also think we counting cars that are around by the area. I'm also counting the amount of houses and looking at the income going up in the area.
Right.
So I feel good that we have the amount of people and the amount of people actually using. They have to, you can't get from the airport to downtown without passing these areas.
Right.
So my goal is to see if we can do the same thing on the south side. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Councilmember Collins.
Thank you. I think Councilman Lewis kind of lent to my question as well in terms of just kind of the investments more in our small businesses. And I know Invest Atlanta, excuse me, I know that Invest Atlanta early on talked about investment in some of the capital pieces to support small business. I was just looking at the slide about the small business improvement grant, and to Councilman Lewis's point, seeing more of the blues or the investments that actually overlaps completely with TAD dollars as well, and just thinking about some of the other desperate areas on the west side, like Bolton and things like that. So I won't belabor that point anymore since Councilman Lewis made the point. I do have a question about the business.
Councilman, can I go back to that?
Yes,
Because I think it's a
please.
good point.
Yeah.
Is that small business improvement grant is specifically tied to the TAD. So the funding source
Yeah.
allows me only to invest in the TAD.
Yeah, so when you spoke of, when, I think it was a slide where you also talked about the combination of investments with TAD dollars and private funding as well. Just really quickly, is some of the private funding, are those restricted dollars that's only for particular areas or specialty or things to that nature? Is there a potential way or a path of diversification where like those TAD dollars support small businesses along those corridors, but there's could be possibly, or is there possibly any potential development dollars from the private side of your fundraising efforts?
So when we refer to private investment, oftentimes the TAD dollars aren't the only dollars in a project. And so what we say is, okay, if we're gonna invest 50,000, then you have to invest either 100, depending on the size of the business, right? So when we refer to the private dollars, it's the total that comes into that project. But there are no flexibility per state law. I can only invest TAD dollars within a certain TAD, and the private investment is what is complemented to that project amount.
Got it.
Because we always try to leverage our dollars. We don't try to be the only ones participating in the TAD project.
Got it. Okay, so just so to be clear, so the overall Invest Atlanta, I would say the overall Invest Atlanta budget, most of those private dollars are attached to specific initiatives and or TAD
That
investment.
complement our dollars into
Okay.
a project, right? So
Okay.
it's not flexible. So it's, let's just assume the facade improvement program or a small business improvement grant. I think there was one example I talked about, Altosora. Okay, I'm doing this on memory, but that one I think was a $50,000 grant, and the total cost of that one was $150,000. So we were 50 of that 150. Let me pull that up so I can say that correctly. Yeah, so of that $50,000, $50,000 was the Eastside TAD Small Business Improvement Grant, and the total local business owner build out was $2.7 million. So the difference between $50,000 and the $2.7 million would be the private investment into the deal.
Got it. Okay. So for this would be a question I could just follow up after, just kind of understanding the business support, particularly coming out of the Pierre Bolton TAD. I know that it's probably not reflected on this slide as much, but I'll reach out just for more questions and details, just because I know there's a growing landscape of small businesses in that area. I mean, I don't know about my other colleagues, but I've gotten a couple of calls in terms of additional support, and I referred them to Invest Atlanta. So it'd just be good to kind of know what some of the additional investments beyond West Side. The other question I have, like going back if I can, to the business development results. And I know you talked about there was 3,967 jobs that was created, and of that 1,730 were new jobs. Curious, are we collecting data on if those jobs were, or is that employment from local hires, or did these companies have to actually send their workforce with them as they set up in Atlanta?
Yeah, it would depend. The answer is yes, but it depends on the program that we track. So if we were to participate with an EOF, an Economic Opportunity Fund, we require the company to tell us who they're hired, not the names, the
Yeah.
zip codes of the individuals, because we're trying to track how many are local in Atlantan. So we will track that. But if they've used like a state opportunity zone, we process the paperwork for them and they get it, then they don't have that reporting requirement. So for some of the programs, yes, we do. For some of the programs, I can't tell you.
So for the programs that we do, are we seeing more of the, is there more of local hiring or are we seeing this trend, this move of like the employees of these companies to the area?
We ask for zip codes, so I wouldn't know if they've moved from somewhere else. I just know they have an Atlanta address at the time of reporting.
Okay. All right, thank you. Those are all my questions, Mr. Chair.
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Councilmember Bond.
Okay. Can y'all hear me? Yeah, thank you for the various breakdowns on affordable housing. I have a few questions on that topic. I know that all of the TADs are very different in character, and so I'm wondering if you have a breakdown of the different levels of affordable housing that are generated by each TAD.
Yes, I do, and I could provide it for you.
That would be great. I also have a question about, I know that a lot of the affordable housing generated through the TADs comes with like a 20-year-ish commitment to affordability. Some of these buildings house seniors who are very concerned about what happens when that 20 years expires. So I'm wondering if there's any push for more permanent affordable housing options or what the contingency plan is when this affordability eventually expires.
Yeah, it's great that the amazing Terry Lee is going to be speaking next. Oftentimes our projects we work in tandem. So our project, for example, the TAD investment may require 15, 20 years, but oftentimes they also use Atlanta housing. And in that case, then we get 30 years. So it really depends. So that's the first. The second is we also do we monitor all of the affordable housing projects and the terms when they're up. So about 5 years when that affordability period is up, we start reaching out to the owners. And so we've used housing opportunity bond dollars to recapture some of those projects. We're trying to ensure that we preserve the affordable housing. So the idea is new and preserve at the same time.
Thank you for that. Look forward to seeing those data breakdowns.
You got it. I'll try to have them by our briefing on Monday.
Councilmember Winston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hi, Dr. Clementich. Had a quick question around some of our, I guess our typical TAD deals. When we start looking at financial stacking, do you have a percentage or maybe a high and a low of some of our smaller deals as they compare to some of our larger deals where we're involved in those from a TAD perspective?
So it's interesting, the subs that Councilmember Dozier talked about today, they're probably there. If I had to say, we are a higher percentage of those kind of TAD business. When it's a small local legacy, we try to lean in more. But on some of these larger, just to give folks, we like to be about 10% of the capital stack. So if it's an $80 million deal, we are going to be in 10% and or lower into that project. And so there was an example I showed today. It was 80 million. We were only in for 3 million. So it really depends on the size. But we do definitely try to be very supportive of some of these small legacy mom and pop shops because they need our support the most.
All right, thank you. And then lastly, so we just started our Beltline Commercial Affordability Consortium where we're meeting looking at how to expand and create access for commercial affordability around the Beltline. I would also still be curious, I know we passed legislation last year around looking at that in other areas of the city of Atlanta.
Okay.
Would love for Invest to, take the lead on that, and my office could partner with you as well, but just try to add on to what Councilmember Dozier's legislation did around legacy affordability, but see if we can expand that to other businesses as well.
Just know that anytime we put in any significant amount of dollars in any projects, and even some of the residential, and if they do mixed use, we are asking for them to do below market rents for some of our small local legacy businesses. But I hear you, and you would like to see something even wider. I'm there.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next up, Atlanta Housing, Terry Lee.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
We can be a little bit more excited than that. Let me start over. Good afternoon. My name is Terry Lee, and I am proud to serve as the president and CEO of Atlanta Housing. And Atlanta Housing is the largest housing authority here within the state of Georgia, and probably one of the largest in the country. And when you think about who we are, our main responsibility is to make sure we provide housing resources to those most in need. Literally, we serve over 42,000 families a year, and I dare say close to 61% of our families make less than $17,000. Our children represent 20% of the kids that are actually within the APS school district. And so when we think about housing, we think about the opportunity that we have to use housing as really, quite honestly, the leverage to lift our families to economic self-sufficiency. And so when we talk about the work we're doing at Atlanta Housing, back in 2022, we adopted, 2023, my apologies, we adopted our 5-year strategic plan. And so what we wanted to make sure of as we talked about our strategic plan, we wanted to be sure that we weren't just looking at how do we increase the overall housing supply, but how do we have a meaningful opportunity and investment to make sure our families have a different way of life. And we also want to be very transparent about it. And so when we launched our plan in January 2023, we also launched a dashboard so that the public could literally track our progress. And so to date, I am proud to say that we had a goal to invest about $220 million in affordable housing. That's $220 million of AH resources. We've exceeded that by investing $235 million. We also made a goal of 10,000, that we would create and preserve 10,000 units within that 5-year period. And we have about 16 months left to go, but we're at 84% of our goal. The vast majority of that, when we first started, was preservation. Councilmember Bond, you spoke about preserving opportunities for seniors. So you'll see a lot of that in the work that we've done from a preservation aspect. But the new construction over the last 24 months has really caught pace with the work that we're doing. And I invite you to scan that QR code to just literally look at the progress we're making. We have 2 dashboards that we make available. This dashboard, of course, tracks our strategic plan from a local perspective, but we also, because we are a heavily regulated federal agency through the federal government, we have a dashboard that really tracks the benchmarks that we should have in compliance with the United States Housing and Urban Development. So the last time we had an opportunity to present to the committee would have been in October of last year. And so what we wanted to do today was really set the stage for the conversation of what took place in 2025. And 2025 was a busy year. It was a busy year, but it was also a productive year. And quite honestly, I would like to say it was a year full of love. And love because we were able to move the needle on so many of our development opportunities here within the city. Just 2025 alone, we closed and created and preserved over 1,800 units. We invested an additional $102 million. We also made sure, because we know we have families here that are right on the verge in our city that need just a little bit of help. And so we have a program with United Way for short-term rental assistance, and we were able to assist over 1,100 households. And then when you speak about homeownership, homeownership is really the program that I believe is the highlight of the work that we do at Atlanta Housing. We were able to create opportunities for over 230 new homeowners. And just a quick story to share with you. In December, I was here in City Hall at the Mayor's Cabinet meeting, and a city employee stopped me, and she said, "Are you Terry Lee?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am, I am." She said, "Well, I was one of your participants." And when she said that, I kind of was taken by surprise because I didn't know if there was an incident that I needed to be aware of. But she quickly followed up and said, "I became a homeowner just last week." And so it created the opportunity for her to have pride being able to utilize the public assistance she received as a launch pad to homeownership, but also create the opportunity for generational wealth for her family. And that takes me to when I talk about the pride of our residents, but also the love we have of this work. I would be remiss if I didn't talk about my team. There's a lot that has been said in the news, but I would tell you that in my experience of Atlanta Housing, my 5 years of Atlanta Housing, we probably have one of the most dedicated workforces that I've seen. And that has been just in the action. So every photo you see here is a photo represented of a team member at Atlanta Housing that has dedicated their own time and hours to volunteer to help us in community events and acts of services that we provide to our residents. We have over 316, close to 321 team members who have put in about 3,000 volunteer hours. And these are hours that they're not getting paid for, but these are hours where they want to give back to the families we serve. Also, we have, on an annual basis, we have a scholarship program. And it's a scholarship program where we provide resources to Atlanta housing youth. And so that $154,000 that you see on the screen, that $154,000 was invested by our employees over the last 3 years. Last year alone, we raised $45,000 in order to make scholarships available for our youth. And so I got to get right back to development, though, because the heart of what we do at Atlanta Housing is making sure that we move forward with development opportunities. And so November 2017, City of Atlanta sold the Civic Center to Atlanta Housing. And that project itself sat dormant for quite some time. And I'm proud to say that in 2023, we were able to identify a development partner. That development partner was the Michaels Organization, Sophie Capital, and Republic Partners. But I'm even prouder to say that in 2025, December 2025, we broke ground on the first stage of reimagining what the Civic Center can be. That site alone, over the course of its phases of development, would have about 1,500 units with 38% affordability. We're looking at mixed-use space, hotel, retail amenities, as well as community space, and even cultural amenities. And quite honestly, we're reinvesting back in a site that has a historic significance to this city, but also to the families that were displaced from the site so many years ago. The total Atlanta housing investment in the Civic Center redevelopment is about $35.9 million, with a total overall development cost of close to $600 million. The first phase that we broke ground on in December is all senior housing, and it represents about 148 units. Another project that's near and dear to my heart, and this is near and dear to my heart because this takes advantage of the opportunity we have to take former public housing and bring it back into a productive use, and that would be Inglewood site in Chosewood Park. Inglewood was one of the public housing sites that was demolished in 2009, and in May of 2024, we broke ground on the first phase of housing for Inglewood, and just this last year we broke ground on the second phase. And so right now at Inglewood, we have 2 phases of development going on at the same time. They represent a total of about 360 multifamily units with 22,000 square feet of retail space. We also, thanks to the City of Atlanta, were able to do a major green space and stormwater management infrastructure facility. And that was actually made possible through the Housing Opportunity Bond. It was a $15 million investment through the Housing Opportunity Bond that helped us be able to make that green space available. So if you go to the site now we have construction tape up because it is an active construction site, and it's not actually available for the public to utilize, but you can see the green space amenity that would accompany the affordable housing that we have on that site. This year alone, we have a total of 9 closings that will be coming up. We are excited about that. It's a mixture of home ownership opportunities as well as new construction. In addition to that, it also includes the preservation of existing affordable housing. And so what we're excited about is that these 9 projects alone represent an additional $47.3 million that Atlanta Housing will invest to leverage about $175.4 million across all the developments. The total unit count of those 9 developments is right around 1,000 units, with 565 of those units being affordable. And the activity you see is the activity that we're proposing that will take place between January of 2026 and June 30th of 2026. And so when we think about what's coming, it's important to also look at what's currently active. So right now today we have 18 projects that are under some form of active construction. And so you'll see that over the course of these next 3 slides. And we actually wanted to break it out through different categories. And so this first slide represents properties that we have under development on Atlanta housing land. And that is land that was former public, with the exception of Civic Center, that is land that was former public housing sites. When we started our strategic plan in 2023, we had about 300 acres of former public housing land that could be made available for new development opportunities. And we are putting that in active use. Right now today, we have over 130 acres under some level of active development, with an additional 100 acres in some level of planning activity. What's also unique is that Inglewood is not the only former public housing site that has two phases under development at the same time. We also have that at Herndon Homes as well. The first phase of Herndon Homes, which was about 90 units of senior housing, was completed in 2019, and we're currently active on phase 2 and 3 that are under development right now along Northside Drive. The second slide represents co-investment in infrastructure. So because we are what HUD would deem a moving to work organization, we have the ability to utilize our federal funding for rental housing assistance and operating subsidy, as well as to support development activity. And so we've been able to invest those dollars under a co-investment program to create and generate affordable housing activity across the city of Atlanta. Of significance would be Heritage Village in Westlake, which is the old Job Corps that we have a major investment in, as well as Sylvan Hills. And then from a preservation and home flex standpoint, we're continuing to look at how do we preserve the opportunity for affordability. The top 3 projects on the slide really represent that: Cosby Spear, Columbia Heritage, and Columbia MLK Senior, while the bottom 3 represent an opportunity for us to not necessarily provide construction dollars, but provide the rental assistance to ensure that there's a level of affordability among those projects. And that would be 111 Moreland, that is in partnership with Partners for Home, 1688 Lakewood, as well as the Simpson. And so when I think about those slides, the 3 slides I showed you with the 18 projects, it's important to note that all total, we're looking at a total investment of about $135.1 million from both public and private sectors to move that forward. From a unit standpoint, we're literally looking at over 1,000 or so units, over 1,200 units, in order to move those projects forward. And I would be remiss if I said Atlanta Housing did all this great work by itself, because we don't. And as a part of the group project, we recognize that the work that we're able to lift up, the impact that we're able to have, not just building housing, but quite honestly, investing in building community, is done through partnership with the city, through partnership with Invest Atlanta, the Atlanta Beltline, MARTA, the Atlanta Land Trust, APS, Georgia Department of Community Affairs, ARC, as well as our primary funder, the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. And so we recognize that it takes each one of these entities to assist us in making the dream of a better community available. I mentioned earlier that while we talk a lot about housing, and clearly we talk about the numbers, you see the activity, we call them shovels in the ground. What's really important are the families that reside in those housing units. And one of the things that we did over this last year was we really took a very significant look on our families and our residents. And so we decided from an organizational infrastructure standpoint, we decided to collapse each entity that focused on our residents. We collapsed them under one department. And so now we have a department that's titled Resident Empowerment. And that group is responsible for, quite honestly, making sure our families have exactly what they need, whether it is workforce development opportunities, whether it's educational attainment. If there's something that's needed from an intergenerational engagement perspective, that is the group that is responsible in doing that. And they also lift up our Choice Neighborhood implementation program. Most recently, we joined a partnership with Goodwill, and we had a job fair in our Roosevelt Hall location where we had 403 of our residents participate in a job fair seeking employment opportunities. And so we have a few upcoming events. We have our Heart Health Sweetheart Dance for our seasoned residents, and that will be at Roosevelt Hall. We also have our public hearing on our MTW plan, and you all should have received an invite for the public officials to join us, I believe, in right at the beginning of March. So we can get your input on our plan as well. And then we have another groundbreaking coming in. That's the Quest Magnolia groundbreaking, which is all homeownership in our Vine City community. And so I thank you. I thank you for the opportunity to share a little bit about the work that we lift up at Atlanta Housing, to share about the folks that work at Atlanta Housing, but most importantly, to share about the people that we serve at Atlanta Housing. And so I invite your questions at this time.
And those will be started by Councilmember Dozier.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and good to see you, Terry, as always.
Good to see you, sir.
First question I had, and just to emphasize the partnerships that you shared earlier. It is great that we have Invest Atlanta in the room as well. I know I had this kind of as a twinkle in my eye a few years ago when I was chairing this committee, but just thinking about in talking with a lot of my residents in a lot of these facilities, and access to amenities in their communities can be very limited. So whether it's groceries, whether it's gym facilities, whether it's, you name it. I wonder what sort of opportunities there are to incorporate commercial space in Atlanta housing developments. I recognize that y'all's mission is centered 100% on housing. All your funding is tied to housing and housing outcomes, but just thinking about the partnership piece, I know that square footage that you have is limited, it's a finite resource, and setting aside 20,000 or 30,000 square feet that's several units that you're not able to build. So I get all that from a pro forma standpoint, but there's ways to offset that cost through those partnerships with Invest and other entities so that we can bring more commercial resources to, especially for our seniors, that many of them don't have cars, rely on public transportation. Some of the sites that we're building are facilities because land is cheaper, there's fewer public transit opportunities, and so just wondering if there are ways in which we can bring these amenities or these commercial opportunities to our residents.
Yes, sir, absolutely. So when we are in the process of planning a development opportunity, we actually include commercial space in that planning opportunity. Okay. So you're seeing that realized at Inglewood, with the 22,000 square feet of retail. At Herndon along Northside Drive, we have a retail component there as well, and we also have committed to work with the development team to bring a grocery store to the area. And then at our Bowen development, that's another development opportunity we have where we'll have retail space. Now, what's really unique about Bowen, because it's a part of the Choice Neighborhood Grant, we're also looking at that entire corridor. And so we're focusing and working with Invest Atlanta on economic and commercial development opportunities along that corridor. But we absolutely agree with you that we have to look at how do we create mixed income, mixed use opportunities in order to serve the residents.
That's awesome. Thank you. And
thank you, sir.
Are there opportunities, especially as I know Councilmember Bond had a question earlier with Invest Atlanta about the life cycle of some of these development deals, and as y'all are looking for funding for rehab or making property improvements, 10, 20, 30 years from now, I wonder if there's an opportunity to retrofit some of these existing properties for commercial. I know there's a cost associated with that. That's why partnerships are key. But I think a lot about my folks in Mechanicsville, for instance, they're over at Fulton and McDaniel Street, and the closest grocery store is, thankfully we have a Publix in District 1 that's down the street, but with the MARTA lines that are changing as part of the bus network redesign, it's going to be harder for a lot of my folks to get to their amenities that they need. And I always wonder, would it be possible to put a corner store or something like that, like an in-town market or something, or a Savvy market, in a place where we don't have any other commercial access for a lot of these residents?
No,
even though it's been there for a minute.
Yeah, I believe all things are possible. And so one of the things, again, as we look at our development opportunities, is how we can create those mixed-use spaces. We are becoming more intentional in doing so, and also partnering with Invest Atlanta. I will tell you, I was probably more excited in Eloisa when they received the new market tax credit. allocation, and we've already mapped out how that allocation crosses over some of the project or pipeline opportunities we have, so we can do exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that we're real clear about, though, is what's under our sphere of control, as well as our sphere of influence. And our sphere of influence, while we can't use our dollars directly for commercial, we can leverage the partnership opportunities to make it happen.
That's awesome. Thank you so much.
So thank you.
Well, speaking of Mechanicsville.
Mechanicsville homeownership?
Yes, I saw in the presentation, closure is expected winter of this year.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Is that in terms of, that doesn't sound like it's groundbreaking, that's just identifying a development partner to, like, or can you unpack what that means in the?
Yeah, so as you're aware, the development partner is Columbia Residential and Hedgewood Properties.
Yes.
And so we're continuing to work with them. We're on our final hurdle right now with a regulatory approval that we need from HUD around the environmental for the site. And so when we represent the activity here, that's the financial closing. But I would like to say that once we have a financial closing, the groundbreaking is shortly after that, because the financial closing is when the clock starts ticking, and quite honestly, the interest accumulates on any type of financial indebtedness to make the project actually happen. So we are eagerly anticipating that one moving forward as well.
Okay. If you had to put a percentage on likelihood of that happening this year.
It will happen this year.
Okay.
It will happen this year.
Okay.
If it does not happen this year, I will come back and tell you myself personally. But it would happen. And in the 3 years we've talked about that project, I don't think I've ever said that, but it will happen this year.
Okay.
We're moving very closely.
And one of the reasons why I'm particularly excited about that project, not only am I getting some new neighbors in my neighborhood, but unfortunately, we're losing our community school. Dunbar Elementary is no longer going to be a K-5 school. Is part of the repurposing list. But as we think about the repurposing of that structure, that facility, what does that look like in partnership with the city, with Dunbar Neighborhood Center? But Atlanta Housing Properties completely surround that entire complex, and I want to make sure that Atlanta Housing is at the table and helping to, especially for the residents who are in need of a lot of the resources that we were hoping to bring into that, are actively included in that. And so as we, 250 new households, I think, would be impactful to what we envision for that site.
No, absolutely. And Atlanta Housing does not own those properties that are surrounding that facility. Our development partners actually own, but we do have the ground lease.
Fair enough.
And we have a very strong interest. And so the majority property owner, I would say, of the Atlanta housing portfolio would be Columbia Residential. And we worked very closely with Columbia Residential, even working with them with the neighborhood to make sure that some of the concerns that the neighborhood had from just an oversight and a maintenance standpoint, as well as security, was addressed. So we would do the same here.
Okay. And let me rephrase, as an active stakeholder in
Thank you,
this
sir.
work. My last question is with regards to 5 Peachtree Street, and I don't know if this is, I wasn't, because of the district boundary change that took place a couple of months ago, have not been actively included in those conversations. I would love to learn more about what y'all are thinking about doing at the site, and so it can be an offline meeting or offline sort of presentation.
Absolutely. We can work with Invest Atlanta as well as Integral to have a meeting to discuss that further. Atlanta Housing is contributing to that project. We're making available rental subsidy in order to have the units be affordable.
And I'm assuming this is a property across the street from 2 Peachtree Street?
Yes, sir.
That was acquired during the same, okay.
Yes,
So yeah, I would love to get a sense of what y'all are thinking. And
absolutely. I'll work with Eloisa to do that for you.
Perfect. That's all I have. Mr. Chair, I yield.
Councilmember Lewis.
And thank you. Speaking on Councilmember Dozier's, sticking with that when he was talking about the schools,
Yes, sir.
I'm looking at Dunbar as well, as always, and Carver, and looking at some of the schools in our district like Slater and Perkison. Think about that area, and Fitch. And so 3 of those schools are about to close, same area, Fitch, and they threaten Slater. The unit mix, when you send out the upcoming closings, can you send out the unit mix?
Absolutely.
With that? The reason being is because APS basically told us that they're closing schools because the unit, this is conversations I've had with my APS representatives before our new person got there. So Patrice Hutchinson never was able to vote on this. So I met with the former board member, Toten Pace. And the unit mix that they said that we're building 1-bedroom studio apartments. And so I saw one of them in my district where 3,000 apartments were coming, and 90% of them were 1-bedroom and studio apartments. I've been pushing back on that.
Yes.
And so can you put out unit mix on this?
Yes, sir. We could actually provide that to the council this week.
And are you all working with APS?
Yes, sir,
Because
we are.
I know I'm glad you said that, because they told me, my board member at the time period told me that they were not aware of where the new housing was coming, because we're being loud on saying we're building 20,000 housing or properties by 2030, but APS is also closing schools by that same year. And so can you help me understand, like,
So I can't speak for APS, but what I can tell you
can you
is
speak
that,
for us on like what
well, I
we're
can speak
building?
for Atlanta Housing.
Yes.
And so for Atlanta Housing, we are working with APS. We've met with the superintendent and his staff in reference to the plans. Our Bowen project alone represents a significant number of units that we're getting ready to bring back to that area. It's over 2,000 units that we're bringing back to Bowen. And if you recall, on that site is the former A.D. Williams School. It's in a state of disrepair. And so we've been talking to the school district, making sure that they're aware of the plans that we're doing. We've also engaged in conversations with the school district regarding properties, surplus properties that they have, and if it's an opportunity for us to be able to either purchase or partner with those properties to bring them back for some type of development purpose.
And I'm thinking about Thomasville
Yes, sir.
because of my age, I'm just thinking about like all the schools that closed during that time period when the apartments were closing, and now we're bringing back a lot of people. We're loud on saying we're bringing at least 20,000 new properties into the city of Atlanta, and if the schools are closed, where would the kids go? And so I want to know if you can get me the unit mix, because when
I
I'm
can
looking
get
at
you the unit mix for the properties that we're representing, and we can provide that to you.
Mechanicsville, for example.
Yeah.
So Mechanicsville and Dunbar, for example, the home ownership with 250 total home ownership units coming. So that means that school, I won't even do that one. So Cleveland Avenue, for example.
Okay.
Across the street, we're building 200 apartments. And then Cornell Commons, are you working on Cornell Commons?
I'm not, sir.
But that's another property that we're building right on Metropolitan Parkway. And if we can just get the unit max, it may help us, because I think I can foresee us, we're closing Cleveland Avenue Elementary School, but we're building at least 400 apartments around, and a lot of them are 3-bedroom apartments.
Absolutely.
And so I want to know where my kids gonna go.
Yeah,
All right.
no, absolutely. And so for the projects that Atlanta Housing is directly engaged and involved in and working on, we will make sure that that information is provided to the committee this week.
And you are, once again, you are at the table with APS, so they know about the projects that you have coming.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We actually read their plan and had comments to their plan to make sure they understood the project and the development pipeline that we have coming.
And one last thing, Carver Homes. I see Village of Carver only because we share Michael Langford Drive. And I know that was one of the schools, we have schools that are threatened in that area as well. And I can foresee, we share that area. And so Carver Homes ownership and Village of Carver, can you please give me the unit mix for those as well, whether they're 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, and 3
Absolutely.
bedrooms?
Yeah, for every property that we have represented in the presentation, we would definitely provide the unit mix, as well as the properties that are proposed to come online, that are planning to close this year. We'll provide the unit mix for that as well.
One last area, as we talk about rebuilding in Atlanta, and I went through your upcoming closings, went through your active projects. I saw District 20, Sylvan Road, one portion of the area. I know you and I know about the Pool Creek area, but I'm thinking about Gilbert Drive, right?
Yeah.
And Councilmember Matt Westmoreland and I drove down Gilbert Drive, and I told him the story of Gilbert Drive, how my family lived on one of the streets on Lyric Lane that was off Gilbert Drive, that is now, he pulled up a map so we can see who owned what.
Yeah.
And we talk about new housing, that's already zoned for housing.
That's right.
People used to live there, there are pipes there, there's hundreds of acres. So when we talk about growing of Atlanta, is there a plan for Gilbert Drive? Because my family sold their house to the city in that area based on whoever was, the mayor came over at the time period to buy my family's property based on the airplanes being too loud. I live a stone's throw from Gilbert Drive right now. We've been able to develop in that area again, because we've been new technology with the airplanes. So is there a plan for you for Gilbert Drive?
Yeah, and so I want to first thank you for the meeting that you participated in with Ann Phillips and the other members of that community. It's been very helpful, and I actually reached out to Ms. Phillips last week to see if there had been any movement on the conversations around Gilbert Gardens. As you know, Atlanta Housing still owns the Gilbert Garden Annex, but we do not own the Gilbert Gardens property proper. And so we're still talking with the City of Atlanta's Planning Department on the overall plans for that area to make sure that the community's voice, as you so eloquently stated when we met, that the community's voice is heard and actually taken into consideration as plans move forward.
Super thankful for working with you all the time.
Well, thank you, sir.
Even one of the maps on the home ownership program page, I made sure I shouted out the folks who, because I can see the work that you're working together, and
Yes, sir.
I always love working with Dr. Clemente as well. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Winston.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for being here and for your report.
Thank you, sir.
Wanted to see if you had any updates on 450 Capitol Avenue, the project there.
Yeah, so that project is still under an active procurement. We should have a decision moving forward as to how we would move forward within the next 30 to 45 days, but it is still under an active procurement. I will tell you, with the recent acquisition of Kaiser Permanente in that area, as well as the work that Georgia State University is doing, we want to make sure that we're complementing the work that's underway and the work that is currently there, as well as meeting the needs of the residents. But right now, it's about 30, 45 days out.
Okay, thank you.
No, thank you, sir.
And then I also wanted to lend to the conversation that Councilmember Dozier brought up, just about mixed use and how that's working in some of your developments. Just to kind of let my colleagues know that you all had the first mover position with mixed use in Inglewood, in the Chosewood neighborhood. And now we're starting to see other developers starting to pivot and do that as well. So I think it took you all kind of taking that first mover position for us to be able to see some of that extended growth there. And so I really appreciate you all taking a chance on that neighborhood by doing that. So thank you.
No, thank you. And we appreciate your support. We know the neighbors had some concerns, especially because the site had been vacant for so long. So we do appreciate your support, and we're just happy to see that project moving forward. Thank you.
I think I've told you before, you could write a case study in community engagement, and I have no doubt that you are in your position now because in your previous role, you led that charge. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that, sir.
Councilmember Bond.
All right, thank you for being here today. It was great to meet with you the other day, so I don't have too many questions. You answered a lot of them at the time.
Thank you.
But I did want to make a general comment. Something we did speak about in the meeting is, how every single year we see decreases in federal funding for deeply affordable housing. This is something that's impacted us here in Atlanta. I didn't know if you wanted to speak to that for a moment or how that's impacted the way that funds are currently being allocated.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So one of the things I would say, and Councilmember, I want to thank you as well for your time that you shared with us. Atlanta Housing right now is currently about 98% federally funded. And so literally the resources that we have made available to us are coming directly from the federal government. That's the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development. And if you just want to put that into layman's term, we actually allocate and invest over $280 million a year just in rental assistance. And close to 12 to 18% of the multifamily housing stock right here in the city is being subsidized through some level of assistance from Atlanta Housing. When you think about the families we serve, either whether they're living in multifamily or single family, it's about 19,000 households that we're able to touch. And so as we see decreases at the federal level, then that decrease is also coming to Atlanta Housing. And so last year, we were very intentional about making sure, because we saw the tide coming, so we were very intentional when we went into our budget year of actually imposing our own budget decrease, because we wanted to make sure that we had enough funding available to keep the families we currently have housed. We wanted to make sure all of our development projects that were underway stay underway. We probably have the most robust pipeline that we've had in over 10 to 11 years, as well as we wanted to make sure that we could provide the right services for our residents. And so that is one of the things that has been top of mind for us. I just had an opportunity to spend some time with my colleagues some other housing authority directors from across the country. And again, we're all thinking creatively as to how we're able to stand the tide so that we can make sure our families stay housed. And so that means looking at how do we diversify our funding? How do we become more creative so that we're not as dependent on federal resources in case there are some changes that we quite honestly can't control?
Thank you so much for that. And I know that we exist in this really complex ecosystem of housing between, what drives homelessness, what drives housing precarity. So much of that has to do with wages and tenant protections. And so I think given the current federal climate and the likelihood of it to continue in this way for a couple years, I think this is a really important moment for us as a city to be thinking about how are we enforcing protections for tenants, wraparound services for homelessness, and doing everything we can to help make this ecosystem function as well as possible, in addition to looking into other forms of funding, whether that's expanding the Affordable Housing Trust Fund, municipal bonds, or other mechanisms.
Yes, thank you so much.
Councilmember Lewis is going to bring us home.
One quick question. I heard you say 19K housing projects that we run right now. I mean, not projects, 19,000.
19,000 families that we assist with the voucher program.
Okay. Can you look into find out how many we assisted in 2005? And the reason why is because I want to know if
We have that information, yes, sir.
Yep. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
Now, we're going to move to our ordinances for first reading. If you will sound those, please, Ms. Tell.
Number 1, 260-1125, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to waive the competitive source selections provisions contained in Section 2-1187 of Article 10, Procurement and Real Estate Code of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, as well as any other conflicting code provisions, to authorize the mayor to execute the Second Amendment to the agreement number listed, Adult and Dislocated Worker Career Services with Arbor E&T. On behalf of Atlanta Department of Labor and Employment Services, to extend the term on a month-to-month basis for a period not to exceed 3 months, effective from April 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2026, an amount not to exceed $200,000.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund department organization and accounts numbers listed, accounts numbers determined by the chief financial officer and for the purposes. We vote on the next cycle. Item number 2, 260-1126, CDP 2532, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2025 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate a portion of property located at 2275 Joseph E. Boone Boulevard from the OS Development Pattern Designation to the LDMU Development Pattern Designation and for other purposes. Item number 3, 260-1127, CDP 2533, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2025 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 11 Mildred Place from the MLSF Development Pattern Designation to the LDR Development Pattern Designation and for other purposes. Item number 4, 260-1128, CDP 2535, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2025 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 511 South Evelyn Place from the MLSF Development Pattern Designation to the LDR Development Pattern Designation and for other purposes. Item number 5, 260-1129, CDP 261, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2025 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 1175 Johnson Road from the I Development Pattern Designation to the MUMD Development Pattern Designation and for other purposes. Item number 6, 260-1130, CDP 262, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to amend the land use element of the 2025 Atlanta Comprehensive Development Plan so as to redesignate property located at 235 and 249 Milton Avenue from the MDR Development Pattern Designation to the MUHD Development Pattern Designation and for other purposes. Item number 7, 260-1131, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee to waive the procurement source selections provision contained in Division 4 of Chapter 2, Article 10 of the City of Atlanta Code of Ordinances, as well as any other conflicting code provisions, to authorize the mayor or his designee to enter into amendment number 1 with CHA Consulting for the RFP listed qualified environmental professional for Chattahoochee Brick Company site cleanup on behalf of the Department of City Planning to increase funding in an amount not to exceed $275,000.00. All contracted work will be charged to and paid from the fund department organization and account numbers listed herein and for the purposes.
Thank you. On to our regular agenda and item number 8.
26-0-1099, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee, authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation to retroactively exercise the renewal option for the agreement number listed after school meal services with Social Express Catering and Meal Prep for a term of 1 year commencing on January 7, 2026 through January 6, 2027, in an amount not to exceed $634,500.00 on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation to retroactively exercise the renewal option and ratify services rendered in connection with the agreement effective beginning January 7th, 2026 through the exercise of the first renewal option and for other purposes. This item has a substitute. The substitute clarifies the price increase of 3.2% beginning January 7th, 2026.
Motion to bring forward a substitute. Second by Lewis.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute is before you.
Any questions or comments? Motion to approve on substitute.
I'm just curious if this includes hot meals.
Mr. Voss.
Doug Voss, Department of Parks and Recreation. It absolutely does. We provide over 2,000 meals right now to enrollees in this year's program. That's snacks and a meal every single day at over 21 sites.
Mr. Lewis.
Do our seniors able to access this or just
This
students?
program's youth and teens
Gotcha.
specifically. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Motion by Dozier to approve on substitute, which I will second.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable on substitute.
Item number 9.
If there is no objection from the committee, can we take items 9 and 10 as a block?
Is there any objection? Go for it.
Okay, item number 9, 26-0-1100, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation to retroactively reinstate agreement number listed, senior programming services with Cornell Tech Solutions, to enter into the first renewal option for 1 year commencing on August 5th, 2025 through August 4th, 2026, in an amount not to exceed $100,000.00, to continue to provide computer instruction for primetime CM programming at multiple locations, to authorize the mayor, his designee, to ratify services rendered in connection with the agreement retroactively effective beginning August 5th, 2025 through the exercise of the first renewal option, to waive all ordinances and parts of ordinances in conflict herewith and for the purposes. Item number 10, 26-0-1101, an ordinance by Community Development Human Services Committee authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the Department of Parks and Recreation to reinstate agreement number listed, senior programming services with Class Act Steppers, to retroactively exercise the second renewal for 1 year commencing on August 29th, 2025 through August 28th, 2026, in an amount not to exceed $200,000.00 annually, to authorize the mayor or his designee to ratify services rendered in connection with the agreement beginning August 29th, 2025 through the effective date of the second renewal option, to waive all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict herewith and for the purposes.
Councilmember Lewis.
2 questions. One on number 8, well, number 9 on the senior programming for the technology, instruction, computer instruction. Which recreation centers is this at?
I know they offer it at Arthur Langford for sure. Today we just got our new spring catalog, which I will advertise to you all if you'd like some of these 60 pages worth of events. but they're actually all listed in the catalog. But Arthur Langford, I know, is one. This particular vendor, actually, this would be their first renewal, I believe, has actually exceeded expectations. They offer computer literacy to seniors, and they've been a fantastic vendor, really supportive of them. And if they're at a site that wants them, they are willing to go as long as we can schedule.
And I just want to make sure, because we're talking about $100,000 a year, and I'm in my recreation centers a lot. I want to make sure that they're in some of our recreation centers. Can you get me a list of the recreation centers that they're currently in?
I will. I'll do that specifically for this vendor.
And my next question was around the $2 million per year for the
200,000.
oh, gotcha, 200,000 per year for the dance class. And if you can get me there were locations where this person is going. It says they get about 103 to 350 people per week.
I would say almost at least. They're at more than half of our sites for sure.
So because I know I have some folks that I've been paying to go into recreation centers in my district to train to dance with to teachers. So I want to make sure that the folks are there. So if you can get me the name,
I can.
You can get me this stuff so I can pull up and I can see that 350 people are using these services for $200,000 a year for a dance class.
I can.
Thank you.
They actually offer, it's line dancing, it's aerobics. They also do Pilates and it's not just one type of dance, but they're offered at all those sites.
I just want to make sure that it's at the sites, only because I know what my office has been paying for to happen at some of my sites in my district.
Understood.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? I will make a motion to approve items 9 and 10, second by Dozier.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 4 yeas, 1 abstention. These two items are favorable.
4 yeas, 0 nays, 1 abstention. Item number 11.
26-0-11-16, an ordinance by council members Dustin Hillis, Michael Julian Bond, Matt Westmoreland, and Ishay Collins to ratify the July 10th, 2024 execution of an intergovernmental agreement between Atlanta Housing and the City of Atlanta effective May 23rd, 2024, and which shall expire on September 30th, 2032 for the Choice Neighborhoods Implementation Plan for the Bowen Choice Neighborhood Transformation Plan, to ratify the Chief Financial Officer's payment of funds in the amount of $2,000,000 from the city's beloved Community Housing Trust Fund in November of 2024 pursuant to the IGA, to authorize the Chief Financial Officer to make payment of funds in annual installments through the remaining term of the IGA through September 30th, 2032, the total amount which shall not exceed $8,000,000 from the Housing Trust Fund in accordance with the terms of the local match commitments contained in the IGA and for the purposes.
Mr. Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for members of CDHS. Good to see you all for the first time this year. Will Tucker, Director of Housing Innovation for the Mayor's Office of Policy. This is a bit of a cleanup paper. So as Ms. Terry Lee showed you all already, we've got some tremendous ongoing work and accomplishments at the Bowen campus. That was done, pursuant to the co-application that the City and Atlanta Housing did in 2022, 2023 for that $40 million HUD grant. As part of that, there was a local match requirement, and so the city had expressed at that time via resolution its commitment of $10 million over 8 years from the Housing Trust Fund in order to support infrastructure and neighborhood projects in Cary Park and Almond Park and elsewhere in the Bowen Choice Neighborhoods area. Subsequently, we did make the first payment of $2 million out of the Housing Trust Fund to Atlanta Housing to support that work, and then we're subsequently advised that it would be best to just put a bow on it, go back, ratify it more explicitly and affirmatively the IGA, and then also go back and ratify that first payment, just to pave the way such that we're it's fully memorialized and we have a predictable upcoming flow of those additional payments to support the Bowen program as they move through their phases. So that's the request for this one.
Any questions or comments? Motion to approve by Dozier, which I will second.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable.
Thank you. Takes us to resolutions. Item number 12.
Item number 12, 26R3182, a resolution by Community Development Human Services Committee to authorize the City of Atlanta's submission of a technical assistance application for the Community Development Assistance Program from the Atlanta Regional Commission in order to conduct a citywide study regarding senior accessibility and for other purposes.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, I'll make a motion to approve. Second by Winston.
It's okay.
Go ahead.
Just to give some context, thank you, Chair and members of CDHS. This resolution will allow the Department of City Planning to apply for technical assistance through the Atlanta Regional Commission, CDAP program, or the Community Development Assistance Program. If awarded, this support will help us strengthen planning and urban design strategies that will better address accessibility challenges facing Atlanta senior residents. The goal is to make it easier and safer for older adults to move through their neighborhoods, access services, and remain connected to their communities. And if we are selected for the program, we will return to council for any necessary follow-up.
Thank you. Got a motion by Westmoreland, a second by Winston.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 5 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable.
Thank you. Two dual referral items, colleagues. First one is number 13.
Item number 13, 260-1117, an ordinance by council members Andrea L. Boone and Thomas Worthy, as amended by Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee, authorizing the mayor or his designee on behalf of the city of Atlanta to enter into an amended intergovernmental agreement with the Atlanta Urban Development Corporation governing the development of an interim fire station 15 on city-owned property at 1531 Piedmont Road as part of AUDC's broader mission to develop affordable housing on publicly owned land, to authorize the mayor, his designee, on behalf of the city of Atlanta to execute all documents necessary to effectuate the purpose of this ordinance, including but not limited to any amendment to the Intergovernmental Housing Cooperation Agreement dated December 2023 or any such successor IGA if needed and for other purposes.
Mr.
Thanks,
Tucker.
y'all. Will Tucker again. This one, so if you'll recall in 2023 when Atlanta Housing actually created Atlanta Urban Development Corporation, the city had authorized the transfer of several surplus properties to AUD, being envisioned as kind of the first pilot phase of redeploying and repositioning underutilized public land in service of affordable housing. Now this 10th Street site is currently an aging fire station, Midtown Fire Station 15. The intent in the long term is to completely redevelop that into a world-class 3-story fire station with a tower on top of mixed income housing. So when that initial legislation had authorized the transfer of the air rights above the existing Fire Station 15, it did not contemplate what we would do in the interim. Obviously, it's necessary to relocate those public safety facilities during the redevelopment period, which could be up to 36 months. And so to that end, we have a public land site, an alternative site, at the so-called Harry Norman building, right across from Ansley Mall at Piedmont Monroe. That site is very close to being prepared for demolition, for restriping the parking lot, for getting all the site work and utility work necessary in order to get it prepared to be an interim fire station. And we just need to authorize AUD to actually do that via their existing IGA.
To the extent it matters, and I don't know who it does, but it's 1531 Piedmont Avenue.
That's right.
Northeast, not road, and so
I'll
I'll make that motion, or it can be a scrivener correction.
Yes, Councilmember.
Cool. Motion to approve by Dozier. Second by Collins.
The vote is open.
Six yeas, 0 nays. The item is not adversed. It is
The item is favorable.
favorable. There we go. And that takes us to
That takes us to the item that was referred from Public Safety and Legal Administration Committee, 26R3106. This item has a substitute and changes the caption. May we have a motion to bring forth the substitute?
so moved. Second by Dozier.
One moment. The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. The substitute is before you. 26R 3106, a resolution by Council Members Jason Dozier and Antonio Lewis as amended by Public Safety Legal Administration Committee and as substituted by Community Development and Human Services Committee, encouraging the principles and goals set forth in the Play Fair ATL policy platform for the 2026 FIFA World Cup and beyond, and recognizing the platform as a framework for promoting equity, transparency, accountability, and lasting community benefit in connection with World Cup-related planning, investment, and operations, requesting that the Mayor's Office of One Atlanta present its 2026 FIFA World Cup Human Rights Action Plan, including its development process, key findings, risk mitigation strategies, and implementation timeline to the Community Development Human Services Committee and the Finance Executive Committee of the Atlanta City Council prior to the public release of the final plan to ensure transparency, legislative awareness, and alignment with the city's equity and human rights commitments and for the purposes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Colleagues, I know the caption was a bit of a mouthful. Thank you for reading the whole thing off. The short of it is that a coalition of organizations dubbing themselves Play Fair ATL are working to try to make sure our World Cup preparations are as equitable and inclusive and progressive as possible. On principle, I support what they're trying to accomplish. There's some details in the weeds that we're going to try to work through to try to make sure we can accomplish what they're presenting as part of their policy platform. But this resolution, in short, supports their platform and makes it a goal that we're trying to accomplish as a city. With that being said, the substitute that we just approved a couple of minutes ago acknowledges the amazing work that our Office of One Atlanta has already been doing on this front. The 2026 FIFA World Cup Human Rights Action Plan is something they've been working on at least since last summer, if I remember. And so want to acknowledge that work, but also ask them, the office, to present before our body here at CDHS, as well as Finance Executive Committee, to talk about what they found or what they're working on as part of that. And so I didn't want to lose sight of the fact that we've already been doing a lot of great work on this front. And so that's what the resolution does, and I ask for your support. And I recognize Councilmember Lewis wants to add his comments as well, but I do want to make the motion to approve on substitute.
Got a motion to approve on substitute by Dozier, which I will second. Mr. Lewis.
And strong labor impact this legislation. To have every labor union in the city of Atlanta reach out to me, and the international impact with our Scottish friends who are actually leading this ATL Play Fair. So I heard you. I'm fully with you in support of this. The historical legacy labor unions of the city of Atlanta support this, and I am the goal is to make sure that the international folks come into the city and play fair.
Thank you. Councilmember Bond.
Thank you. I definitely support this resolution. I actually went to a few of the initial meetings of the formation of this coalition, so big supporter of this. I think it's really important for us to make sure that, our city is upholding human rights during events of this scope. I think we all are familiar with what happened during the 1996 Olympics. There's going to be a lot of arrests made, threats to our houseless community, and perhaps an ICE presence in the city, and we want to make sure that we are doing all we can in a way that has teeth to protect our most vulnerable residents here in Atlanta. And I think it would also be a good goal for this committee to introduce some ordinances to pair with this resolution that have a little bit more teeth and ensure that those protections are binding.
Thank you. I didn't know if the Chief Impact Officer wanted to share any comments.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much. Really appreciative of Councilmember Dozier's commitment to the human rights work. I'm excited that we got to discuss this legislation in advance. As the Chief Impact Officer for the City of Atlanta, Candace Stansel for the council members I may not know, which is just one, I want to make sure that you know we've been at this for 2 years. The plan has been sent out in draft form several times. It's about 30 pages, so I would encourage all of you to review it. We will share it primarily with you, and I've asked for the opportunity to present to you in 2 weeks when you come back together three core components: inclusion and safeguarding, which is critical. How do we remedy any issues? And there are specific sections around how we're supporting unhoused, those who are immigrants, our labor populations. And I'll just say there have been over 75 hours of community engagement meetings, ATL Fair Play being one of them, present at all of them in community, virtually, et cetera. So we are excited about what we've built, and we believe the City of Atlanta will be seen as one of the most rigorous and thoughtful human rights action plans presented by any of the host sites for FIFA World Cup 2026. Thank you for your support, and happy to answer any questions.
Appreciate it. I'm going to remove my second and ask Councilmember Dozier if he'll remove his motion to entertain an amendment from Councilmember Lewis.
I think his amendment was to add my name as a supporter.
All right, that's a motion from Bond, which I will second. If we can open that up quickly.
To the substitute?
Excellent. Then we've got a motion to approve on substitute by Dozier, seconded by Westmoreland, that includes Councilmember Bond's name on this paper. We can open up that vote.
Can you repeat the mover and the seconder, please?
Westmoreland and, Dozier and Westmoreland.
The vote is open. The vote is closed. 6 yeas, 0 nays. This item is favorable on substitute.
Thank you. Any general remarks from the body? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.